Today, I want to share 7 tips to help you shoot in the 70s more often without changing your swing. Hey, my name is Michael Leonard. I'm the creator of Wicked Smart Golf, a +2 handicap, and a golf writer for the past 5 years. After going to the range hundreds, if not thousands of times, I am tired of seeing golfers struggle by consistently making the same mistakes time and time again. From what I've found over the last 20 plus years of playing this game, it's about mastering your mindset, getting a core strategy for every single hole, having a great short game, and specifically getting better at putting. Saying I shot 78 or 79 is so much better than saying I shot 81 or 82. Keep watching to learn 7 easy golf tips that you can start applying today to start breaking 80 consistently. Tip number 1 is so simple. Know your distances. If you don't know how far you hit every club in your bag, it's going to be nearly impossible to actually pull the right club when you're out on the golf course. A lot of times you'll be over the ball with indecision and doubt and not really sure if it's enough or it's too much, because if you don't know your distances, golf is even harder. So do yourself a favor and spend some time with a launch monitor or going to a golf store that has a launch monitor and dialing in your distances. The easiest way to do this is to hit 20 shots with each club in the bag and discard any shots that are way out the norm. So if you top one or hit one really thin or really fat, don't count those, as those are going to screw up your averages. Then once you have about 10 to 15 or if you can 20 shots, this is a good time to calculate your averages. Now, you're probably going to want to do this over multiple sessions, as that's a lot of golf balls to hit with all of your clubs. But once you have a baseline, carry that with you or have a note in your phone so that way you know how far you hit every club in any given moment. Now, of course, wind, temperature, and different conditions will change it, but for the most part, we need a baseline number. Once you know your distances, golf gets so much easier because you will be able to stand over every shot with confidence and be able to pull the trigger knowing that you have enough club to make it happen. Tip number 2 is to have a strategy for each hole. I see so many golfers just get up and kind of pull a club without really thinking about where this is going to leave them or what side of the fairway they're trying to get to or where the pin is or where the trouble is, and they don't really have a specific target. But from what I've seen with elite golfers is that they always have a strategy for how to play the hole. If it's a short par 4, they might know the risk is worth the reward and try and drive it. If it's a really tight par 4, they know that sometimes they need to lay back to get themselves in a good distance so that way they can hit on the green. The point is, you need a good strategy to set yourself up for success, and that starts before you even pull a club from the bag. Preferably, you want to do this with a yardage book that you can buy online or at the pro shop, or with the golf GPS. If you don't have either of those options, make sure to ask someone that you're playing with if they've played there before. Otherwise, you're playing blind and there's a lot of guesswork. Now, a secret tool that I like to use is Google Earth. You never would think it, but Google Earth has actually helped me shoot some of my best rounds by doing research ahead of time. You can actually go onto Google Earth, type in the golf course you're playing, and then map it out. So you can actually measure how wide fairways are, how long it is to the end of the fairway, what the green structure looks like, and so much more. Now, this is a tip that I learned from Scott Fawcett, who created Decade Golf. This is a proven course management system that works for some of the best players in the world, like Bryson DeChambeau, Will Zalatoris, and countless others. If you want to learn more about Decade Golf, make sure to click the card above. Tip number 3 is to play one shot shape off the tee. I see so many golfers that are trying to do that Tiger Woods 9-shot rule. They want to hit a low draw, then they want to hit a high cut, then a straight ball. You know what? This is something I tried to do for a long time as well. I thought that was the key to really playing great and shooting in the 70s consistently. I thought I had to always be shaping shots and never try to just hit it straight or play the same shot on every single hole. I also told myself that I was too ADD to play the same shot, and that was the best strategy for me. But after learning from Scott Fawcett in the Decade Golf program, I learned that that is a huge mistake. Why, you might ask? Because shot dispersion is massive, even with the best players in the world. 2014, Jason Day was the number 1 in strokes gained off the tee, yet he had a 74-yard wide shot dispersion. He was the top rated player on the PGA Tour when it came to hitting driver, and he sprayed it within a 74-yard wide shot dispersion. Think about that. Amateur golfers are probably closer to 80, 90, or 100 yards. So if you're trying to consistently play a draw, and then a cut, and then a straight shot, you are opening up both sides of the golf course and you are going to have some big misses. A lot of times when you watch golf on TV, you'll hear the announcers say that he really wants to eliminate one side of the fairway. And that means by playing the same shot shape, you are going to essentially know that you have one major miss. So for example, I play a cut. I know that for the most part, my miss is going to be left. I typically don't over slice the golf ball, it's more of a pull. But I rarely worry about trouble on the right side because that's not usually in my shot pattern. But that only happens by playing the same shot shape almost every single time. Plus, as Scott Fawcett talked about when I interviewed him on my podcast, Wicked Smart Golf, when you try and hit different ball flights with your driver, you're essentially having to manipulate the club with your hands at impact. Since you can't change ball position with your driver, you're having to get flippy or hold on if you're trying to hit a cut, and that is going to be very, very hard for the average golfer to do. So instead, play one shot shape off the tee. Even if the hole goes left and you play a cut, play your cut. This has made a massive difference in my game because I can walk up to the tee with confidence. I know that I want to aim down the left side of the fairway, regardless of if the hole goes left or right, and I know my shot. I challenge you to give this a shot and let me know in the comments when you do, because I really think this is one of the easiest tips to help you start breaking 80 consistently. Tip number 4 is to keep the short game simple. I find that a lot of times golfers try and hit all these crazy shots they watch on YouTube or something they might see Phil Mickelson try and do, when in reality, you don't need to do a lot around the greens. If you're missing the green, my first option is to always putt if possible. That's right, I'm a +2 golfer and I try and always putt if possible. You might be thinking, why not always hit these high lofted shots or these bump and runs? The thing is, I know that my putting, even if it's from the fringe or even from the fairway cut, will generally end up closer than a chip shot. Don't get me wrong, sometimes chips or pitches will get closer, but if you looked at an average of 20 shots that you hit from 20 putts, 20 chips, or 20 high lofted shots, I can almost guarantee, unless you're some sort of chipping guru, that your putts are gonna end up closer. And that's the goal, because everyone's gonna miss greens in regulation. It's what you do to set yourself up for success, to have those short putts for par. So what I try to do is putt if possible. If I can't putt, then I chip it. If I can't chip it, then I pitch it with a higher lofted club like my sand wedge or lob wedge. But keep this mentality around the greens. Stop trying to play these high sexy shots. Don't get me wrong, they look cool, but they're not high percentage shots. And if you want to become a consistent 70s shooter, you need to keep it simple too. Tip number 5 is another short game tip, which is to master one simple bunker shot. Kind of like chipping and pitching, we try and get way too cute sometimes in the bunkers. A lot of times we think we need to have this high spinner shot and we need to have a chunk and run with a pitching wedge or a gap wedge, and we need to have all these different shots out of sand. But in reality, the more type of shots you have, the more you might get overwhelmed and you might forget about technique or screw up your routine, and you're probably just not going to hit it as close as you can. Remember, a bunker is a hazard. Even the best golfers in the world only have about a 50% chance of getting it up and down. This is the PGA Tour average from the sand, 50%. So what you need to do is have one simple shot. Just have a basic bunker shot where you take your sand wedge or lob wedge, whatever one you prefer, and use that 90% of the time. If you have a really long, like 40-yard bunker shot or something weird, you might have to mix it up. But in general, just like chipping or pitching, keep it simple. This will make it easier for you to walk into the bunker with confidence and hit the best shot to give yourself a good look for par. Tip number 6 is to stop playing hero golf. Don't get me wrong, I love Zelda, Batman, and all these other heroes that are out there in the world today, but the problem is that when you try and play like a hero on the golf course, you are inviting doubles and triples into your game. Look, we're all gonna get out of position. Even the PGA Tour average only hits about 60% of fairways. So that means a lot of times they're playing from the rough and having to navigate different terrain like trees and other things. But the problem is that most everyday amateur golfers try and hit it through a magical window. They say something like, oh, I can get it. I just have to take it over this tree. I have to do this. And don't get me wrong, when you pull off a hero shot, you absolutely feel like you should don the cape and cowl and go protect Gotham. But that is not gonna happen 99% of the time. Instead, what you need to do is get yourself back in position. Whether that means chipping out sideways or maybe even going 30 or 40 yards ahead, try and get yourself back in position to make bogey at worst. Remember, to shoot in the 70s, you can still make 7 bogeys alongside 12 pars to break that magical 80 number. But it's going to be really hard to do that if you're adding doubles and triples onto the card. So minimize your mistakes when you screw up off the tee or get yourself into a bad second shot. Always think to yourself, how can I make bogey or better? That's a question I ask myself anytime I'm out of position, so that way I can hopefully make par, and if not, make bogey. Another thing I like to think about with hero golf is only hit shots that you know you can execute in practice 9 out of 10 times. Don't try and hit that shot that you know you've never tried, but you think today is the day. More often than not, you're going to compound the mistake and you might have a 7 or even a snowman sneak in on the scorecard. That is not wicked smart golf, and it's something that you can avoid. So stop playing like a hero and watch your scores drop. The 7th tip to help you break 80 and shoot in the 70s consistently is to manage your emotions. Now, notice I said manage your emotions. I never said don't get mad or act like it's all good. I'd be a hypocrite if I was telling you that, because I get super mad still on the golf course. But the thing is that when I do get mad, I get over it quickly. I never let one shot compound into the next or the next or the next. In fact, I was recently paired with a guy in a tournament. He had a terrible second hole and made an 8. He talked about that 8 the rest of the day. He did not manage his emotions, and he let that impact the rest of his round. Look, I've had 7 and 8s on the second hole too, but a lot of times I was able to bounce back because I did not let those mistakes compound and continue on in the round. So manage your emotions. All right, well, hopefully these 7 tips are gonna help you start shooting in the 70s more consistently. But I had one bonus tip, and that is to stop adding your score up after 9 or 17 holes. No one cares. No one's ever asked you, what'd you shoot in those 17 holes, or what'd you shoot on the front nine? Nobody cares. Instead, stick to what got you there. Don't get worked up on what happened on the first 17 or the first 9 holes. Focus on your routine, stay present, and finish strong. There are so many things you can do right now to start making a massive difference in your game, and it doesn't require months and months of training your swing or updating your grip or all these other technical changes that golfers get in the habit of doing. So follow these tips and watch your scores drop. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video because, again, my goal is simple: help you play better golf without changing your swing. There are so many things you can do on your mental game, short game, and course management to take your game to the next level. Don't get me wrong, swing changes are gonna happen from time to time, but don't spend all of your time in practice working on those. Instead, hit the short game area, work on your mental game, go through your pre-shot routine, and think about your course strategy before going out on the golf course. I'm convinced with these 7 tips, you're gonna become a 70 shooter more often than not. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for notifications so you don't miss any of these awesome weekly videos. Thanks again for watching, and as always, I hope you have an epic day on the links.